All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as Alex Smith stopped by on the Pat McAfee Show and talked a little bit about Brock Purdy. We're going to talk about Smith and Purdy coming up next. And first, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Get the brisket. Get the brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. You will not be disappointed. And this video is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. I did win $90 in the preseason on a 4-player prop for $10 in the Niner Raider game. Came 8 yards away from winning a second time in week 1. So it's a ton of fun. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners, NINERS, to get your first deposit matched up to $200. And make sure you download that app. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. I am loving Better, and this video is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about Alex Smith. I love Alex Smith, man. I think he's one of the smartest guys. I met him the day the Niners drafted him. Him and I did a TV show on KPIX. We did a couple media hits together. Had a chance to meet young Alex at the time, who had big dreams, and ultimately there was a lot of rough patches before it worked out. But man, he almost climbed to the top of the football world, didn't quite get it done and win the Super Bowl in Kansas City. But man, he achieved great things in Kansas City after a really rough start in San Francisco behind, a terrible line. And when Alex really didn't know how to play the position. So he learned how to play the position in the NFL. And he stopped by with McAfee, and I want you to hear this conversation. They talked a little bit about Brock Purdy. Here's Alex Smith on with Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk on the Pat McAfee Show on ESPN, talking a little bit about Brock Purdy, and we'll play it right here, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Let's talk about Brock Purdy. Why is he so good, Alex, if you had to guess? Now, there's 1,000 takes that have been had about Brock Purdy, and I assume, you've heard them all. We all have. But why do you think, if you had to break down why Brock Purdy's good, why is he good?
Yeah, I do this in like all these pieces that I'm going to talk to these QBs. Is kind of like what makes asking the guys themselves. Everybody has an opinion on what makes a good quarterback. And I went around and wanted to talk to everybody, right? Like ask Aaron what makes a good quarterback. If you're a GM, who you drafting? What are you looking for? And I think like we've just been off base on quarterbacks, right? Like they aren't measurables. It's nothing you can actually gain from the combine, right? Like I just don't think that stuff matters playing quarterback in the NFL. There's so many things that are not quantifiable, and you have to be able to like sit down with somebody, find how they're like wired, how they're motivated, right? You got to turn on the film and see what kind of instincts they have. Certainly, for Purdy, like I think he's got the most courage in the pocket than anybody in the NFL. I mean, this guy stands in there and take hits, and he is just like unflinching, right? Like his focus downfield never wavers. It's a gift to his. Obviously, he's accurate, but like I think that poise and courage is something that, again, like how do you quantify it? And we're so caught up in size and speed and arm strength and hand size and shit like that. And like, again, none of that stuff I really think matters. This guy can play ball, and he's been playing ball at a high level for a long time, and yet, again, he falls to the last pick in the draft. Like, how does that happen? So I think it's a fascinating discussion, man. And he's a baller, man. I don't know how you don't turn on the film the last couple of years and see what he's doing week in and week out. I know it's a good situation, but there's not a good quarterback in the NFL that's not in a good situation. So I'm a huge fan of Brock's, man. I think he's a huge reason why they're so good and going to continue to be good.
He makes some massive throws. I mean, he'll step in there. And to your point about there isn't a single good quarterback in the league or in the history of the league that didn't have a good situation, kind of around him. That's a part of football. Yeah, you're going to need other people on the field. Let's talk about.
So there you go. And, first of all, on Alex, I think Alex would, he made a ton of money. So he probably isn't going to coach. And that's kind of sad because in reality, Alex Smith would be an incredible coach. because he struggled and then he put it together. He played really high level football at the end of his career. He was like, a babe in the woods as a rookie. He was like naked out there. I mean, he knew nothing. He was coming out of a gimmicky offense at Utah. He didn't know the Niners scheme. He didn't have a good surrounding cast, and he got absolutely destroyed. Got his shoulders separated when Rocky Bernard fell on him. Alex Smith. It's funny. I always laugh when I see these people. Trey Lance is a bust. Right now he is. Zach Wilson is a bust. Right now he is. But guess what? These guys, the average NFL player, I mean, Roger Staubach wasn't good early. Ken Stabler wasn't great early. Joe Montana wasn't great early, even though a lot of people think it was instantaneous. It wasn't. Steve Young wasn't good early. Sonny Jurgensen wasn't good early. Dan Fouts wasn't good early. I mean, for every Dan Marino and a Russell Wilson and an Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger guy, and Brock Purdy, guys who hit the ground running, most of these guys are not very good early on. And Alex was that. He wasn't very good early on. But if you're smart and you're tough and football's important to you, you'll put in the reps, you'll put in the film work, and you'll get better. Alex Smith was an absolute bust in years 1 through 7. He did not bust out until his 8th year with Jim Harbaugh. So spare me the Zach Wilson's going to suck forever. Trey Lance is going to suck forever. I'm not buying it. I don't believe you. I don't think you know what you're talking about. I think you don't know shit. Most Hall of Fame quarterbacks take a long time to develop. A long time. Steve Young was not good in Tampa. He was a Hall of Famer. All those guys that I basically named that started off slow, they're all in the Hall of Fame. They're all in the Hall of Fame. So this whole thing, I mean, not to say that, Brock Purdy's some super crazy special player. But first on Alex Smith, we should listen to him because he's been on the bottom and he's been beaten up and he's had his body broken. And then he's been on the top. And then also, of course, we all know how his career ended with the leg and the tragedy and all the stuff that he's had to go through just to have a leg and to have, just to not lose the leg. The trauma that Alex Smith went through at the end of his career physically is something that very few football players endure, despite the fact it's a violent game. But I just think that it's interesting hearing him talk about Brock Purdy. One, I think he's very credible. Two, he's got it down. It's like height, weight, speed, hand, how many reps of 225. That doesn't mean jack. How big's your hand? It helps. I'd rather have a big-handed quarterback than a small-handed quarterback, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Man, you got to be 6'4". Really? Russell Wilson's damn good. Man, you got to be 6'5". Really? Steve Young's like 6 feet and change. Drew Brees is headed to the Hall of Fame. He was 6 feet. Joe Theismann was pretty damn good. I don't remember him being 6'4". It's like, and now there's Russell Wilson. There's Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's 6'1" and change. I'm 6'1.5". He is literally, when I stand next to him in the locker room, we're looking eye to eye. So he's 6'1.5". What do you think? Aaron Rodgers is a half-inch taller. It's amazing. The NFL doesn't understand how to evaluate the quarterback. And so it's like every year, who's the tallest? Who weighs the most? Who runs the fastest? Who looked best at the combine? This guy's got 10-inch hands. This guy put up 32 reps of 225. No quarterbacks ever put up 32 reps, but you know what I'm saying. Alex crystallizes it, and he's like, hey, look, it's real. And I've heard him in other interviews where he's like, quarterback play comes down to 3 elements: toughness, processing, and inaccuracy. How accurate are you? How well do you process what you see at the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, post-snap? And how tough are you? And he thinks that Brock's greatest trait is the courageousness, the toughness, the fact that he'll hang in the pocket. And, part of the reason that Brock is tough is he's not a little guy. He's 6'1.5", but he's 230. That's the other thing. Oh, he's a tiny little guy. He's 230 pounds, and he's pretty yoked. So, I mean, they call him Baby Bosa for those quads. Brock Purdy's not a little guy. He's slightly shorter than the ideal, but he's 229 pounds or whatever he is. He's not small. So he does stand in the pocket with courageousness and with fearlessness. And he lets his receivers work open down the field. And he gives them that extra time. And he'll stare down the rush or stare down the barrel of a blitzer, I should say. He doesn't stare down the rush, but he'll stare down the barrel of a blitzer who's coming right down the chute and just not flinch and deliver the ball, with conviction and with something on it. But to me, the toughness is impressive. The accuracy is a must, right? You're not a great quarterback if you're not accurate. What makes Aaron Rodgers Aaron Rodgers? We were talking to Nick Sorensen about him the other day. What makes him tough? Nick's first word, accuracy. What made Joe Montana incredible? Accuracy. What makes Tom Brady Tom Brady? He puts it on the money. He's accurate. You have to be accurate with the football. Accuracy, you got to have. He's got it. He's got rare toughness. I agree with Alex. But to me, it's all about the processing. It's the processing. And to understand the processing, you have to understand the animal. Brock Purdy works incredibly hard. Brock Purdy's not making it rain in the club the night before the game. Brock Purdy's having a nice dinner with his wife and then sitting down and going through doing mental repetitions of the first 25 plays in the game the next day. That's what he is. And I've talked to him about it. He's like, I go through every single play, all the different potential options, all the different things a defense can do on that particular play. And what is my answer? I have to have an answer. What's my counter? If they do this, what do I do? If they do that, what's my reaction? What's my counter? What do I do to all the different things that the defense can do to me on every single play? And he mentally takes himself through that exercise, and he does it until I said, how often do you do it? He's like, I do it until I got it down. I go through the mental reps after dinner the night before a game until I have it down, until I absolutely know on every single play all the different options the defense could throw at me and all the different options I have to counter the actions that they throw at me. So there it is right there. It's toughness, it's accuracy, but I'll disagree with Alex. I think it's processing, and I think it's work. The old saying, it's like, if you study for a test and, what's the old saying? Like, if you fail to prepare, you have prepared to fail. That old saying. And it really is true. I mean, if you think about how confident you were as a kid or a high school kid or a college student going into a class test where you knew the material like the back of your hand. And now think about yourself going in to take a test when you just skimmed it and you really maybe didn't have all the concepts down and you haven't done the mental reps and you didn't put in the work and you didn't do the preparation that you need to do and you didn't study the way you need to study. You don't feel as good. You don't feel as confident. You don't do as well. You don't do as well. This guy studies, and that's why he does well. This guy puts in the time, and that's why he does well. Is he accurate? Yeah. Is he tough? Yeah. But the processing is the result of hours of work and dedication and commitment to his craft and to the process of being a pro football player. And that's where Sam Darnold was amazed last year by Brock Purdy. He was amazed by his preparation. He talked about it in the offseason. Wow, it's amazing watching Brock and how precise he is with every single possible wrinkle in the game plan. And it's that preparation that makes Brock Purdy Brock Purdy. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Better for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.